Well, for more on related developments, we're joined by the geopolitical analyst, Dr. Ali K. Elyader, live from Isfahan. So once again, thank you and welcome back to Asia 1. Iran says it has targeted ships linked to the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, while the US continues its military operations. Just how close is the region to a broader maritime confrontation?
Honestly, obviously the volatility is high because I think the parameters that were set out in the diplomacy conducted during the 40-day war that culminated in the MOU being duly signed by all parties, including the mediators, Pakistan namely. When diplomacy is not respected, perhaps the Americans thought they could get back to the status quo, meaning the law of illegality, the law of the jungle, the law of aggression, the law of not abiding by the parameters of the MOU, including safe passage in the Strait of Hormuz, which was stipulated in point number 5, that had to be coordinated with Iranian administration along with Omani administration, not separately, but duly and in coordination with both countries. And since Iran had seen its sovereignty, it saw an existential threat through the waterways of the Strait of Hormuz, through the bases along the side of the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. Obviously, it reacted to violations, and the Americans thought that they could escalate by hitting infrastructure, hitting coastlines, and obviously this has been an escalation trap, which I think the Iranians possess dominant anyhow.
And so Yemen's Houthis have announced a maritime embargo on Saudi Arabia, but Tehran insists the Houthis act independently. How credible is Iran's position, and what impact could the Houthi move have on regional stability?
Obviously, Ansarullah are an independent group. True, Iran supports their cause. Iran has seen them being attacked by Saudis over a long war, which were supported by the Americans. And Iran tried to support the Houthis and Ansarullah the same way Iran supports South Lebanon and Lebanon. Obviously, their decisions are made unilaterally. Maybe they receive advice from Iran, but obviously they are an independent group. But the Houthis had declared before that they stand in support with Iran and aggressions against Iran in the Persian Gulf, in the Strait of Hormuz. And the Ansarullah and Houthis were attacked just recently. The airport was attacked, the runway on the airport, which carried the delegation flying back from the funeral processions in Tehran with Mahan Air. Bravely, Mahan Air, as covered by Press TV and the media, landed in another area and resisted this act of aggression by Saudi. It seems that the Saudis were also advised by the Americans. The green light was given by the Americans. So I think the GCC countries act more like proxy groups or act more under the pressure and coercion of the Americans rather than the Ansarullah. They were retaliating to Saudi aggression, to the recently Saudi-inflicted blockade. They stated in their statements that it will be a blockade against a blockade, aggression against aggression, escalation against escalation. Therefore, obviously, Iran supports the Ansarullah cause, but I don't think they're involved directly in this matter.
And so Qatar has strongly rejected the Houthi statement and reaffirmed support for Saudi Arabia while stressing the freedom of navigation under international law. What does Doha's position tell us about the Gulf states' approach to this current crisis?
I think the Gulf states strategically ongoing need to realize that obviously the security that they imported via America, even recently via their alliances with Israel, this especially is directed towards the UAE and Bahrain, but even the other Gulf Arab states, these cause for violation and escalation of conflict. It divides them from their neighbors, causes for provocation. So Yemen is a neighbor to the region, Iran as well. Having regional pacts and regional coordination, cooperation, and having this as a regional cooperation zone is much more strategically intelligent and wise moving forward in a multipolar world. As a multipolar, in a multipolar world, the regional players need to realize that they need to perhaps have better neighborly, ethical relationships with the likes of Yemen, and Iran. The American bases, military bases, their hegemonic strategy, the Greater Israel hegemonic ambitions. We saw how many wars and how many conflicts these have resulted in, not only over the past 40, 50 days or the past couple of months with the 40-day war, with the 12-day war, but they have been cause for conflict over the decades, and the region's resources have been depleted. So I think a country like Qatar, who is also usually wise in terms of diplomacy, must understand that having a better relationship with its neighbors is much wiser than allowing for aggression. And I think even the Saudi aggression against Yemen is also part of the American agenda rather than being solely a Saudi agenda. But obviously, because Bab al Mandab was the lifeline for the Saudi oil exports, since they were diverting a lot of their crude oil exports from the Persian Gulf to the Bab al Mandab through the pipelines, they see this perhaps also as an existential threat. I think it would be wise for regional players to perhaps detach from American influence and bring the Americans to the negotiating table, back to the negotiating table, so that this war doesn't escalate, and as you said, maritime traffic is not affected.
And so Iran has expanded its retaliatory campaign with strikes on US military facilities in Bahrain, Kuwait and Jordan. How does Tehran justify this strategy, and what risks does this carry for the wider Middle East?
This strategy has been warned accumulatively by the accumulative cooperation of the GCC countries with the Americans and their imperial ambitions for decades. It wasn't just during these periods of conflict and these recent wars. Iran has been telling its neighbors to stop supporting American bases, military strategy, military infrastructure in this region, and it only causes for provocation, as they are harboring the people who are stealing Iranian money, meaning the blocked and frozen funds, which are essentially stolen funds, who are putting maximum pressure sanctions on Iran and Iranian civil society, who are causing for internal unrest. The first war were the January, even a military confrontation. So these warnings have been put out by Iran to their neighbors. And then when the illegal war was imposed on Iran, Iran's supreme leader was killed. Their school children were killed. The civilian infrastructure and bridges were hit. Iran still warned the GCC countries during the 40-day period. And some of your guests and other guests I've seen from the GCC countries say that the airspace around these countries were not used when satellite images showed that the trajectory of these attacks were from GCC countries. The being hit are shown in satellite imagery. Kuwait, the two or three fighter jets, American fighter jets that were shot down supposedly by friendly fire, what were they doing in Kuwaiti airspace in the first place? We have a saying in Arabic saying ashar al min al shams, which means it's as obvious as the sun. Their aiding and abetting of American aggression against Iran is obvious, and that aggression was very much targeted against Iranian civil infrastructure. So by Iran retaliating now, Iran has shown decency, good faith, and has been courteous enough not to attack till now. But I think the Iranians have had enough and understand that they only maybe need to escalate matters further to this degree for their neighbors to also understand that they need to rein the Americans in to allow for stability and have pacts and cooperations with their neighbors that have been with them for thousands of years, and Iran will continue to be with them for thousands of years. That's the right strategy forward, in my opinion.
So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it lots.